All right, Ian, welcome back.
All
Finally,
right,
I think I got this working.
third time's a charm.
Yeah, exactly. So, the point of this interview, it's great having you here, is to explore the Beta Quadra. So, since we are in the same quadra, I was thinking of maybe comparing some notes and see how the different functions, the parts, the animals, how they play out for us. You're kind of me, but upside down, right? So we share the same functions and all that.
Yeah, if I look at my stack to your stack, I'm putting it there now.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, yeah, I'm almost like a mirror of you, except you have masculine sensory.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's dive into this. So I was thinking of, when did you get your type? Like, have you known about it for a while now?
Yeah, I got my type in April of 2020. So about a year and a
Wow.
half ago.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So did it take long for you to process, like to see your type in yourself? Did you do it right away, or did it come gradually?
It took time. It took time, and I think the hardest things was the FE, the EP. You can might as well say all of it. I mean, I type myself double feminine NITE, blast, play, sleep, consume. And that was because I didn't really learn the system. I picked a spot and kind of made that home and kind of like was looking outward, which is the wrong thing to do. Right. You
Yeah.
don't you come in and learn the system and you start to look at yourself. So I was forcing everything into what I thought to see myself. So, talking about NI and being a blaster, I was just using myself as the standard,
Yeah.
which doesn't work at all. So, but I did get the double feminine right. I got the uh, double feminine play, the double masculine sleep. I got the masculine intuition right. So I got, and the reason why I saw the NT sleep, why I thought INTJ. But I had already said that I was an NTJ, that I was good with people.
Yeah.
I always said
And
that about myself. So I saw what was FE, but I just didn't understand FE the way OP explains it.
yeah, exactly. So you were basically an INTJ that is very socially skilled, good with people. That's how you saw
Yes.
yourself.
Yep.
Okay.
Which MBTI allows, right? I can be you can craft whatever, curate whatever type you want.
Of course, since we're self-typing in the MBTI.
Yeah.
So was it a shock to you then when you received your type, like in the OP system?
Yeah, it was a shock. I really was in disbelief. It's funny because when like once I submitted my video, like I became very self-conscious. Before that, everything was cool. Once I submitted my video, I became very self-conscious, which what I see now was really like my sleep processing.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the guess I submitted my video and I just started looking more critically at myself. And I knew that something was off about my type, right? Wasn't sure what it was, but I knew something was off. And I'm like, I don't think they're going to type me INTJ. And I know I wasn't an ISTJ. I know I didn't have SI, but I'm like, something's off with the type I gave myself. So when I got my results, yeah, it was a big shock. It was something I needed to process. And I really thought there was a lot of disbelief because I just hadn't considered EP. Like I just saw myself as an IJ.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you look at my stack, I have consume and sleep in the middle. Double masculine, double activated consume, double masculine sleep. So I am more on the introverted side, even though looking at my savior, it's an extroverted savior. So yeah, it just took time to really process it, sleep on it, talk to other people in the community, and just really sat on it for a while. I mean, I wanted to challenge. it wasn't that I disbelieved Dave and Shan, but I did kind of question, was this system like right? And but being who I am, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to run away from this. Let me test what they have against what I know about myself before I declare this a bust, this system just bad. And, over time it was like, no, they're right. I am blast last. I do have FE over TI and FE. So it took time, but I can see all of the parts, and I do see all of the parts.
Wow. That's amazing. I can actually resonate what you're saying too. I think it's very common actually that people have typed them somehow inside out, like in reverse with the human needs or with the letters or animals, anything. So I think most of us have to go through that process of re-understanding and piecing everything together. And yeah, it can take a while.
And you can't really see yourself, right? When they say it's not to insult you or say you don't have that. No, you can't see yourself at all. It's just that complete picture. It's almost impossible for us to really have that type of insight. So you do have to rely on other people to give you feedback to be able to figure certain parts of yourself out.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Basically, it's like you've never seen yourself in a mirror earlier and you're just watching yourself for the first time. And it's a shock because you build up this inner, view of yourself and what you look like. And yeah, maybe it's not the exact same picture that you had in mind.
And part of it is like the identity too, because I had built up almost 20 years of being an IJ.
Yeah.
Whatever that entailed. So I saw myself in that way. So part of it was breaking down for me that identity piece of it.
Yeah.
And having to rebuild it. It's a painful process in some respects.
So actually we did kind of the same thing because I thought I was an EP. So here we are.
Yeah.
I got my human needs in reverse too. I thought I was an OE and possibly DI, and I'm OI and DE. So yeah, there we go.
And I wanted to be an EP. Now, I didn't want to, but it was like that was my secret desire because they were cool, right? Yeah. And I never saw myself as cool, but being that I am the type that I am, the SCFE, I could see the spectrum, and I could see where I was in relation to that spectrum. So even though I'm considered a cool guy, there are people who play that game. In my mind, they play it a lot better than I did, right? And and part of it is just going back to high school when there's just certain, I was raised with certain beliefs. I was raised to not participate in certain things. So there were people who were able to participate in those things that made them much cooler. So if I were to take where I was in high school versus where I am today, I think my coolness factor has risen. But I always go back to like high school, and that kind of sets the standard in a lot of ways for people. So it's always kind of going back to that time, not necessarily looking at where I am now, but I always wanted to be like one of those guys. And lo and behold,
now you are.
I am.
You are the cool EP.
Yeah. So
congratulations, that's great. And I'm the boring, controlling IN something J, INFJ asshole, I guess.
I don't. Nah, I think INFJs are. I don't think they're. It's something about the F that kind of gives them a little bit of a softer edge. I think the TJs, the ISTJs, the INTJs are the ones that have the harder edge, and for some reason just feel more boxy.
Yeah, maybe.
So I think the FE is going to be your saving grace.
I'll try and use it as best I can. So I was watching some of your previous videos. You've been out there a couple of times, and I saw that you said something about you resonating with your inner functions, the double masculine sleep, the NT sleep, right?
Mhm.
And even being called a professor in younger
Mhm.
years. So
Mhm.
maybe that's what you saw, like you projected and thought you were an INTJ because of those functions.
Yes, on the spec compared to my brothers and sisters, definitely. But it's it's just weird. Just like my childhood, it felt like I was more more T. I'm not gonna say I don't know ST or NT, whatever, but I'm just more of a thinker. Um, and that could have been maybe because of my dad being having a certain model of what a manhood was. So I
Mhm.
may have checked certain aspects of myself unconsciously, just put those to the side because that's not acceptable, and just played up those aspects that I saw. Um, but then I think, and it's not like I was struggling or I felt like I was repressed. I think getting good grades in school was easy. Being at the top of the class was easy. Being able to understand things was easy.
Mhm.
So none of that was difficult. I mean, I made my career decision when I was 8 years old. I just made that decision and I never looked back. So that was,
That's
a lot of these
interesting.
things really, it was all me. It wasn't like, but I think there was maybe the savior FE piece of myself. My dad probably just checked,
Yeah,
you know.
I was thinking about that career choice that you made at this very young age. Like,
Mhm.
how did that happen? Like, how did you know at 8 years old what you wanted to do in the future?
It was, I just heard somebody say something that resonated with me. And it was like, done, like check, like done. He said, if you like math and you like money, accounting's for you. And I said, I like math, I like money, so I'm gonna become an accountant. I never thought about it again. Um, it was just a closed case. And there were instances throughout uh, my childhood and teenager and school and stuff where I was exposed to different things. Um, and I just never changed my mind. Now I didn't really explore what an accountant did,
Mhm.
which almost, and when you think about it, it kind of is anti my type because I'm play consume, so I'm gathering. But since that
Yeah.
decision was made, there was nothing. I didn't need to gather anymore. I didn't need to think about it. I was going to do this,
Yeah,
right? So I locked onto it, and I just never thought about it again.
exactly. So you kind of locked onto that NI,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest was irrelevant somehow.
Right. There were
Yeah.
other, career paths, and that I just, like you being a child and you start getting it, or a teenager, start playing sports and start getting into music. Like I just never had those aspirations to be like, a rapper or like a ball player or anything else. I was like, no, I'm gonna do this. Like my mind's already made up. These
Mhm.
are fun, but I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until college that I really, you start learning about it. And even then, I didn't do any type of, like, I didn't go back into the sleep process and say, do I like this? Like it was, or does this make sense? Does this match my type? It was like, I'm gonna learn this. And, it played out that way.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's pretty
it's
amazing.
strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I was I tried to think of other things that, um, where my masculine intuition just latched on. And I can't think of anything else. Well, actually, my decision to dedicate my life to God, right? I made that decision at 13,
Mhm.
um, for reasons, and then that was something else where it's like it made sense to me. I did it early, and then I kind of learned later on that there was more involved in it, but it didn't change my decision. Like I said, okay, the information I used to build it and to solidify still stood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right. So it was just a
exactly.
matter of there's more to it. It's more of this is a lifestyle thing, a relationship thing. It's not just a NT sleep decision. This is a whole way of life. So it's just a matter of bringing the rest of myself to that decision.
Yeah,
You know.
aligning your full self with the
Right.
decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of fascinated by the masculine NI because I'm audio, so I have feminine NI, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I can see that there are some major differences between the two. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you have noticed that comparing your NI to other people's NI who's not masculine, so feminine. Have you
It's hard
ever?
for me. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go.
It's hard for me to imagine feminine intuition because to me, it's like I kind of look at it as just one straight line, and the feminine intuition seems to be getting knocked over
It does.
by the sensory. But for
Yes.
me, with the feminine sensory, it's like this stuff is like fluff. It's like it's here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
So for
So
you, the sensor is interchangeable.
yeah.
Yeah. And the goal
Yeah.
is the locked
The goal
thing.
is locked, and it's very easy for me to not hold on to something, to kind of take sensory stuff for granted, to really not give it any consideration, because to me it's almost like it's cheap.
Yeah.
It can be replaced. I'll see it. I'm going to see it again in my mind. I know I'm gonna see these things again, or I have no problem retrieving it, whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. So how I see the feminine versus the masculine NI, basically what you said, and the feminine NI is like able to go this way or that way. It's more flexible in a way. And even if there is an overview goal that you're aiming towards, but it's like the umbrella, it's not very specific. It could like present itself in various ways.
Mm-hmm.
And since there is no feminine sensory, there isn't really a visual attached to the goal. So it's kind
Right.
of blurry, more a feeling,
Yeah.
you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can turn out in different
Yeah.
ways.
And what's strange about it is because in my mind I have a goal, but I don't have a defined time for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this is where I'm going to end up. And being savior double activated sensory, there could be days, maybe months, that my goal, I don't even see the goal. I'm not working on the goal because of the amount of sensory that's in my way. But once that clears out and I have a chance to go and really look at, my NI, it's still there.
Yeah.
And I have made progress. It's just, it hasn't been as apparent because there's just so much noise around that I'm not paying attention to that, but I'm still moving towards that goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So when you process, like when you use your double masculine anti-sleep, like are there specific topics that you return to all the time? Or I'm just trying to understand how it plays out for you having OE at the top. Like for myself, I'm kind of almost looping through the same subjects all the time. Like how does that look for you in comparison?
I think there are themes that when I do sleep, and even when I blast, the anything I'm gathering, if I choose to accept it and keep it, it'll land in one of those lanes, right, or those boxes. But a lot of it is just for me, it's processing of self and what I can do with this to help me with my long-term goals, right? So if you take OP for me is going to check many boxes because it helps me to understand myself. It helps me to understand others. When it comes to relationships, marriage, family, all those things, it's determining who's going to be right for me. And And then as far as like work, dealing with clients, understanding my faults and the things that I struggle with. So OP fits a lot of those boxes. So OP is definitely in there. And then my desire to help people and kind of help them work on their goals as well, understanding people overall. I guess you can call it, I guess it would be like psychology in a
Yeah.
sense, but it's not like the scientific piece. It's more so the actual practice of it, and being able to just discern people
Yeah.
is another one that where it will end up. The other ones are kind of fuzzy, but yeah, when I sleep process, a lot of it is myself and others, and then there's like little small subsections within there.
So it seems like you have this drive to understand people around you, like maybe even on a deeper level.
Right. Yeah. Everything serves myself and others. If you know, because when you think about me being blast last, it's like when I am called on to do for others, you know, that forces me into the sleep, forces me to whatever I've gathered, whatever I need to process. It's okay, how can I help this person, this group in a way that's going to benefit them? So it's, you know, the theoretical learning for the sake of learning. It's not that's not necessarily my big thing. It's really, it has practical use
Yeah.
for it,
So you wouldn't put it out there, like apply what you've learned and understood then.
Yeah.
Yeah. For both benefit for yourself and for the people around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're all about action, like things are supposed to happen like in real life, not just going on the inside.
Yeah, there's very little of just, this is good to know. Even though being blast last, you don't see it as much, but when it comes out, I put work into it.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times it's not something I just spent, 10 minutes mulling over. It's other things that I've built, and it's like, okay, this is the moment for me to use it. And it has a lot more force behind it because, I've been doing this all my life.
Exactly. Yeah. You have worked through the theory and the understanding, and you pieced it together. So yeah, and even you're saying you have blast last, but for me as a quite new member to this whole community, I still see that you are everywhere. Basically, I see you on Discord, I see you on the Clubhouse and Facebook, everywhere. Like you seem to be the kind of the guy, so the spider in the web, connecting everyone and everything. Like that seems to be your role somehow. That's how I view it, at least.
And that's part of my saviors, because I've what I thought was just, me, just everybody does it. And it's like, no, there's just, I am paying attention to people, and I'm seeing, okay, I could connect these two people. There's something there. I may not know exactly what it is, but if I introduce you to them, there's something's going to generate, right? And I said this during my typing video, and Dave and Shan, I think Dave was the one who mentioned it, but he picked up on that piece of it, which helps solidify the FE. But yeah, you look in the community and it's like, okay, we're kind of, there's a void, and it's, how do we fill this void? And that's how Clubhouse kind of came along. It was like, well, we're talking about we had these text-based conversations about type. And for me being SF Play, it's like, I don't, like, you can write whatever you want. Like I need to see it for myself. I need to see you in action for me to better understand it.
Yeah.
And which means if that's how I'm learning, there's other people who will learn that way as well. So it was like, let's find a forum to get people together where it's not as scripted, but you just bring everybody together and then you observe them kind of looking like a bird, like a bird's eye view, looking down on this conversation.
Yeah.
To pick up whatever patterns are jumping out at you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was, it's different in that sense that it's not recorded, which is kind of a hurts it in some ways, but if you just observe and listen, you'll start to just see patterns and things will start jumping out, and then you can kind of take that with you.
Yeah, it's a very good way to gather real life data, like really see, because now when we're all typed and we come together and we can see each other's functions, how they play out and so forth, it's like research on a very high level, as I see it, because it's pure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing with the double feminine play. It's like, I don't want to push on the environment. Like, I don't want to force people in the situations, because it's not genuine. It's not authentic. Right. If you could just observe, if you were just watching like a fly on the wall and watching people, what would you pick up? That's to the extent it could be as natural as that, the best information is going to come out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel the same about Discord also. We have the types there, and just listening into the conversations and taking part yourself, you learn so much, both about other functions and your own. So it's a very, very useful tool to learn more about the system. Yeah. So I had a question in mind. Let me check here. Yeah, I was looking at your temperaments. You are SF first and NF last. And you're very T heavy, like STNT in the middle. So you have single activated FE then, right? So
single activated.
Yeah, so you said something about like the FE being a shock to you. Would you like to elaborate a little bit to tell me more about that? Like, how was it a shock?
2 parts. So FE, in my old understanding, was like your grandmom's function, right? Milk and cookies, holidays, mismanners, like all that stuff that I'm not. And then I do have the T aspect in myself. I see it in myself. So those were the 2 things that kind of made it such a shock. But then as I learned more, I found out, okay, FE is not what I thought it was. And it's not what MBTI puts it out there. But I think for myself, being double activated masculine TI, being a jumper as well, the grand stack still stands right now in David Shan's eyes, and I think it's a bigger muscle than my FE. So being double activated, single activated as a double decider with play instead of blast, and being an observer, it's like all those things like FE for me it's more like it's truly an assistant when I'm doing play. Right? It's just a way to navigate that gathering and interacting with people to achieve like the best result, right? Not trying to necessarily move the tribe. And a lot of times it's just to interact with them and to accomplish for me, learning, being able to learn with them, to vibe with them, for us to kind of both of us to take something away. It's not necessarily for me to blast on them. So when you think of FE, I'm probably not the best poster child for FE, because I would say I'm probably the least FE of all of the FE saviors.
Yeah.
Right. Shan called my FE watered down. And when I got a chance to work with her through Ben's typing system, she pretty much reinforced it. She said, yeah, yours is like, on the spectrum, yours is towards the end.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that was something similar to me as well. I had a hard time seeing myself as FE. Like, I never thought of it. I thought I was on the FITE axis. So I got that one completely wrong. Um, yeah, and also like yourself, I think there is a stereotype of FE that is kind of um, less popular, maybe you could say. And yeah, so I had a hard time understanding the function in itself and
Mhm.
then starting to see it in me, which I can do clearly at this point, but
Right.
that was a struggle in the beginning to understand.
Yeah. And that's all like MBTI again, just valuing NT, N and T, valuing those two. FE is just means you're emotional and you're weak, you're
Mm-hmm.
crying, and all those other things that um actually when you think about it, it's one of the better currencies to have in the game of life. You know, if you can't,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily you're gonna FE can you can win games with FE that where you know you can have all of the smarts in the world, but if you can't treat people right,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know how to, you know, just use the right words, smooth things over, you know, you will kill a relationship,
Yes, for
you
sure.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So and even in the work world, you know, there's the people who are technically skilled. If they don't know how to interact with other people, they could lose out on promotions and other types of perks
Yeah.
because they just don't like having that relationship, not necessarily making a person feel good, but just being able to connect with people, understanding what drives them and just import and playing into that is going to take you a lot further,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
Yeah. I've been thinking about FE a lot lately because I think the word feeling in itself is a bit misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've seen that other people think similarly. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we would change, in the end, change that word to something else, maybe priorities, for example, and
Right.
also thinking maybe to reason or logic or something,
Mm-hmm.
because it puts too much value on the word. It's like a little bit less worth in the world as
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah presents itself today. Like it's not the the heaviest value or the most desirable thing. It's the soft value kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe we would need to reword it in the future to make it more accurate.
Yeah, it's I, I know some yeah, and you see that in the community, people just getting tripped up over nomenclature, right? Names, terminology, and it's like you kind
Yeah.
of look behind it because even when you know uh if you're studying anything, like some of the terms are just something that was it's old or it's just and you kind of got to kind of look behind it. So you know, if we have to change the name, do so, but you can to me I can kind of look beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um so but if it helps people, I guess it'll be good to do that.
Yeah, I just think that sometimes when you've overused like yeah a name or something and
Right.
people get the wrong idea, it's hard
Mhm.
to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe you need something different. Well, that's for the future, I guess. Let's see
Yeah.
what happens. I'm still new to this whole interviewing thing. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, so I was thinking a little bit about the FE, and you were talking the other day about how you can give people your FE
Mm.
even if you don't like them. Would you like to
Mm.
tell me more about that? Because I can really resonate and I want to hear your take on it.
F yeah, FE is not it's not about see it's not personal. Like for us feeling isn't personal. For me, feeling is not personal. It's like, you know, there's still an obligation to treat every person with a certain level of like just dignity, decency, respect. So you may not be my favorite person, and I may really dislike you. I guess there's still a basic level of feeling or FE or whatever I'm going to give you. Everybody gets it, you
Yeah.
know. Now, um, so I'm never going to be really like nasty towards a person, but I may not show them as much love as I would somebody else.
Yeah, I
Right.
understand.
And I think in a lot of ways, they've probably like violated my values or my TI or whatever that internal thing is. They've infringed on that in some way. Or they just run out of FE coins from me. It's just like, I've given you enough. I've done this for you over time, and you keep, stepping on my foot or just pushing it away. And it's like, okay, I have no more for you. So,
Yeah.
so this, you're going to get the perfunctory, just like everyday Ian, and I have nothing else to give you.
Yeah. You get like this surface level love,
Right.
so to speak. Yeah.
Right.
And I think this can be misunderstood by other functions. Like maybe they think that it is like the real stuff or the deep stuff,
Right.
but we have several levels to our FE that it's not just, one thing.
There's people in the community that I don't like, but they'll never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm not going to treat them any different than I would treat anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So me being the NF hippie, I always use some kind of analogy. And I was thinking of like if I was a book with say 15 chapters. So I will let almost everyone in on the first chapter and a lot of people in on the second, maybe even the third chapter. But the further you get into the book, the fewer people there are.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people, they only see from the surface level, oh, she has this huge tribe, like this chapter 1, chapter 2 tribe. And people think that you're equally close to everyone, but that's not true. But it's only you who know, know exactly what chapter is this person on and who is not there, So I was thinking about what you said, like you can give them that, you can give them the surface level love, the FE love, but you won't share your NT, right? Because the NT is the personal stuff.
Right.
It will still seem like you are sharing yourself because of this act of love on the outside. And that is, I think, something that people on the FITE axis, I think they have a hard time to see it or understand it. I'm not sure. It's up to them to say something about it, but yeah.
Yeah, it does seem strange. It's like, it seems backwards almost. That, I'm going to withhold my T and my NT. It's like, ooh, like that's, who cares, right?
Yeah.
But that's still a huge part of who I am. And if you don't get that part of me, you're never really going to get the whole me. So, but it's not the, the feelings and emotions and stuff like that. It's like, but that for everybody else, it seems like that's what they're withholding. And I've seen that even in relationships, when dealing with a FITE person, to them, that's such a big deal. And it makes them feel like, they're getting like this, the whole me. And then it's like, no, it's like, there's so much more. Like if I can share my opinions with you, my logic, what things work for me, and I can be as raw as possible.
Yeah.
That's when you've gotten me, right? When you're really, if I'm giving you that,
yeah,
that's when you've kind of you won me over. So and everyone doesn't translate that well. It scares some people sometimes.
Yeah, I think so
right?
too. And
So
yeah, and that's when you get like really vulnerable, like when someone gets through and can, know,
right, you put it out there, it's either not received or they just kind of leave it like just dangling, and it's just like that's the worst part.
Yeah.
So I need to, part of me with people who I want to get, who I want to get close to, or who are trying to get closer to me. It's that ability to put things out there and ask questions just like with feeling, you know, people throw their feelings out there, put their values out. I'm putting like my logic and my reasons. And if you trample on those early, then you're not going to be able to get further than that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
And I think like if you compare TE and FE, these are two different toolbox. So like what we use with our toolbox is actually ourselves, our own kind of whatever emotions or understanding, listening, and being empathetic, you know, with people. Like those tools, they are just tools to us. They can be personal as well.
Right.
But from the outside, it's hard to tell when is it just like a tool used in general and when is it a personal thing.
Right.
So I think for the FI users, they don't have the same access to that toolbox. So once they use it, it is very personal to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny just thinking like with the TI versus the TE, you know, that whatever T you're using as a TI, it's like that's your thing. And for whatever reasons that you utilize it. And it's the worst thing is just having the TE kind of like just kind of crap all over it.
Yeah.
Or kind of throw it out as one of the many options. You know, it's so triggering.
It is.
And it's that's sometimes where I feel at a loss, or where I feel like I'm in a sense most vulnerable, is because that if your TI is kind of just thrown out with everything else, what are you left with? Like
yeah.
like how do you kind of bounce back from that?
That's your identity.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing to deal with, especially in like the workforce. Is just to deal with you know TEs, and they got reasons and logic for days that you just can't compete. You know,
no.
and it could leave you being perceived as somehow ineffective.
Yeah.
You know,
and the rate they do it at, like the speed of the TE, it's kind of impressive. Like, I can't keep up. It's impossible. Yeah.
Right. But in my mind, it's like I was talking to someone and I was just letting them know, like when you work with a bunch of TEs, that's how you are perceived as useful, like a tool.
Yeah.
Right. If you are useful, and if you can get things done in the TE realm, that's where you are, you know, your value is in work. So it could be a very dangerous place. So for me, picking a very SITE career, but not necessarily having that same profile to just be able to spit out a bunch of ideas or what works.
Yeah.
It causes a lot of just conflict.
Does it feel dishonest to you?
It doesn't feel well. It does. The struggle is trying to work with something that doesn't align with your TI. That's the hardest piece. And as I got older, it became harder and harder to do. You know, trying to look at someone as my boss and, okay, my boss says to do this. That's not going to be, to me, it's not enough to carry out your instructions. I still think it doesn't make sense. It's not the best tool. Like there's a goal we're trying to accomplish, but this is not it. This is not going to do it, but this is what we've got, but we could do it better. You know, there's a better way to do this. But so just following orders and marching to them, that never sat well with me.
No, it doesn't work when you have
you
these
know
functions. Yeah.
And then and then just the outright like resistance, almost like bodily. It's like, no, bodily, I can't, my body's not going to let me carry this out. And you just find yourself resisting in certain ways, putting your feet in the ground and just holding real firm and just not moving. It looks childish sometimes too.
Yeah.
You
it's
know,
like
so it's
every part of you is screaming like
Right.
no. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you could really look like out of place and ineffective, which I guess in that sense you are ineffective, but um
Yeah.
yeah, that's a tough thing. That's a tough thing to deal with. So that's
Yeah.
one of the just goes back to the value, just knowing, understanding your type and understanding who you are. Because especially being an FE as a kid growing up, especially as a man growing up and understanding, there's certain parts that are seen as more masculine
Mm-hmm.
and in the family more valuable. You feel like you got to play that game. And because I'm double activated ST, I'm ST consume though. It's like
Mm.
I have a capacity for that stuff, you know, to consume the ST. I can consume it easily, but to
Yeah.
blast it out or to play with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The two TE pieces, I don't have that. I don't have that nearly as much interest, right?
No.
I'll consume it for self and NT it and maybe even yeah, pretty much you consume it. I'm consuming it and sleeping on it, but I'm not externally. I don't really have any interest in putting this thing out over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's so interesting to hear you talk because I can relate to a lot of things, and some things seem to be like happening more for you and less for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, processing on the inside while I'm listening here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what animal is double feminine for you? I have to think. Is that a play? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have double masculine sleep and double feminine play. So those are your extremes, kind of your extremes of the animals.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how is the double feminine play? Because mine is mixed. It's like a half and half.
Mm-hmm. Yours
Is
is
it more
masculine,
movable,
feminine.
do you think? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like water. It's like I just move around. It's I whatever form I need to take um to get this interaction, to get through this interaction, to accomplish stuff in the play realm, I'm going to be that guy. I'm that
Yeah.
guy.
Nothing
And a lot,
stopping
and
you.
yeah, and it doesn't feel, most of the time it doesn't. I really have no feelings towards it. I'm like, that's just me being me, and letting that person be themselves, and letting them, be the more solid
Mm-hmm.
aspect of this interaction, right? So
Yeah.
if I meet another double feminine, I may initiate it, or just I may come in being the one that's the double feminine one. But if I kind of see that both of us are kind of like just circling, I'm gonna have to take the more masculine approach, and I'm gonna have to push us, right? If it doesn't move. But in
Mm-hmm.
general, if you meet someone who has a masculine piece in the interaction, that's going to be the thing that's going to push us,
Interesting. So
move us along.
how come you feel that you are the responsible one to make things happen if both are very flowy and
It
movable?
just like there's still a endpoint. There's still some type of some kind of objective to be had for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's, if I look at my stack, the play and the consume, I'm trying to learn ultimately for my own betterment, for my benefit, however I choose to use it. So if I feel like it's staying too surface,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which you think of play, especially SF play, it's probably the most surface. Can't maybe SC, but SF and SC play probably very surface. There needs to be something to kind of trigger it into something more personal or more insightful. So if I see I have to be that guy and ask a question that's going to tap into their DI or their OI,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to be, if they're not doing it themselves, I have to be the guy to kind of initiate that.
Interesting. Yeah. That's also maybe your masculine TI at work and your masculine NI, like, let's go somewhere with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as it is just, it's surface, every interaction is you're trying to move the ball forward somehow. And for me, it's definitely with self. So,
Yeah.
I'm not here just to have small talk
Mm-mm.
forever. It's let's get something out of this. Let's learn something. There's some value to be had.
Yeah.
Of a more substantial depth.
Fascinating. Yeah, I like hearing about your take on the functions in the Beta Quadra. So, like, when you compare yourself to other SEFEs, have you met any in the community that have your exact type or very close to your type?
There's two SEFEs, not my exact type. One is audio play consume blast. So he's infodom.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one that's Samuel.
Yeah, he's infodom as well.
He's infodom. And then you have Theo, who is play blast. He's play blast. Is he? I think he's infodom as well. Play blast, consume, sleep. So he's double feminine. Play blast, consume. Right, infodom as well. So right now, as it stands, I'm the only one who's energy dom, double feminine, and has that stat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lonely place then for you to be in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I was so excited when Rob said what his type was, but he's FESE. So him and Thomas are FESE, and Jana Bartos. But he's the closest. So I saw the stack, and I did see like SF play, and then I was kind of disappointed to once he corrected me, he's like, no, I'm FESE.
Oh yeah.
That close. But the similarities, it's almost like me and his similarity is much different. Him being the decider and I'm the observer. When I look at myself and Sam, and then there is a guy he's NEFE, double feminine, NEFE, play, consume, sleep, blast.
Mm-hmm.
Philosophically, him and I are very similar.
Yeah, that's interesting. Right? So yeah, even though it's NE, but still the same human needs, the same animal stack, the same modality.
Right.
So you actually feel you can identify more with him than an SEFE that is infodom then.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not that me and Sam, we have similarities, but just overall, seems like he and I problems in areas of problems, pretty much. We see ourselves with the same hangups. Mm-hmm. Especially it being you're still an observer, you're still an OE. It's N versus S, which it's not necessarily the biggest issues, right? It's you're still an observer, a double observer, a single narrow, single OI, double feminine. You still have the double activated TI. You're still blast last. So all of those things craft this certain type of life and certain type of profile that you're using NE instead of SE.
Yeah, interesting how that plays out. Like when you come from the MBTI land, you think the functions will be the most important, but now we have to add other layers like the stacks and the human needs and the modalities, and that makes a huge difference. And sometimes you have more in common with those than just the pure functions themselves. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I was thinking about your balanced animals, the ones that are actually working the best, I guess. Maybe all of them work, but those should be then your blast and your consume. Those are the ones that are mixed, both masculine and feminine. So your info animals.
Okay. And what way are you saying that they are? In what way are you saying that they're balanced?
Just because they are not double masculine or double feminine.
Okay. They're not those extremes.
Yeah, they are not the extremes. I actually don't have a question attached to this. I'm just thinking out loud. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I have the double feminine NF blast, which is very wishy-washy, and
Mm-hmm.
it is supposed to direct the tribe, but you know, the NF blast, it's very different from, for example, the double masculine ST blast, which is more
Mm-hmm.
army-like. And
Right.
this is like the, yeah, motivating guru style of blast. It's very different, you know, and add
Mm-hmm.
double feminine on that. It's so,
Right.
yeah, it's so movable and watery, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
to use your expressions, that sometimes, like in the beginning, I had a really hard time seeing that I was blast first because
Mm-hmm.
of that. I think it's kind of the weakest blast there is. So even though I
Yeah.
am double activated blast, I have the weakest form of blast
Mm-hmm.
on a spectrum of blast. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how I see the animals. They play out very differently depending on the modality, and also what letters. If the letter is a soft one like the N,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's a solid one like the S, and so forth.
Right.
Yeah. Well, anyways, when you meet people from your quadra but don't have your exact same function, like the order of the animals or
Mm-hmm.
the functions or the modalities, do you still feel that you have like a shared language? Or if you compare it to talking to someone in the gamma or the delta or the alpha quadra, or yeah,
Yeah.
how does
There's
that
still
play
a
out?
there's still a similarity that yeah, you still feel like there's some similarities. Like I don't feel like looking at our stack, there's no, it's not foreign. I mean, in a sense, you're giving me permission to do my demons, right?
Interesting.
Because there's no, you get them, right? It
Yeah.
makes it so this conversation is not about we're not talking about the SF play stuff. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the TI, the NI. Like I
Yeah.
can go deep, I can make those statements and you receive them, and you know, it's a different type of discussion. I'm enjoying it, you know, but in the sense I don't get to do this all the time. So I'll probably
Mm-hmm. That's
I
not
have a
your
lot to say.
baseline.
It's not my baseline, and
Mm.
it's not necessarily what I'm coming across on a regular basis. And it's not something really, you know, given if I'm meeting a stranger, I'm not, this is not necessarily, you're not going to really be able to discover this
Mm-hmm.
early on, because I'm putting out the SF play. So I'm gonna keep it very surface.
Yeah.
And that person, if they're beta, they may put it out as well. Maybe they're more quiet, and you know, you kind of move on. So it's hard to get to this level of discussion without really knowing a person. Or
Yeah.
maybe if you're in a scenario where that person can show their functions off in a, you know, more freely, you'll get that way.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to, yes, with the betas is always easy. Just looking at the Stefan Speaks
Yeah. He's
class,
an
which to me,
INFJ, right?
he's an
And
INFJ.
yeah, yeah.
He's blast, play, consume, sleep. So
Uh-huh.
and I think he's audio. So but he's still double activated on his play.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to me, that was one of the more eye-opening classes, because, you know, just seeing David Shan struggle with what he was talking about and his
Yeah.
focus, to me, it was like, okay, this is really like, they just don't see that.
Yeah.
It made
It's
sense to me. And it was like, okay. So when I talk to like the gammas, when I talk to the deltas, you know, we share NI.
mm-hmm.
We share NI with the gammas. We share not the deltas. The deltas we don't share anything with. It's the alphas. Alphas we
The
share the FE,
alphas. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. There's only so far you're going to really be able to like relate to them with like that FE for them is connected to their NE and is connected to their FI. So when you look at blast versus play from a with FE in it, it's just they're very different.
It is
right?
indeed. Yeah.
SIFE blast versus SCFE play, very, very different things.
Mhm.
So, you will see yourself at odds with them and having to work a little bit harder. But, if I was to meet someone who was a play last alpha beta,
Mhm.
we'll still be able to get along.
Yeah.
Because I still have sleep. I still have empty sleep,
Yeah.
right? And that's the language they're speaking. So I do have a capacity to operate there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not take it as weird.
It is interesting how you can relate to the same functions even in the other types, like you say with Stefan Speaks there. Yeah, interesting. So to conclude this whole little discussion, I was thinking of like prior to OP compared to post OP, like what would you say are some of the differences like in your life? Like what have you gained? What is different? Anything you want to share?
What's different? I think the OP, it just exposed me to like the animals, just seeing the functions kind of working together and creating a reaction. Me being blast last and really understanding what that means, has opened a lot of doors of thought, and just seeing where I'm leaving that void. I think that's the biggest thing. Just understanding those animals and being able to see where I'm hurting myself and maybe putting myself hurting relationships. Was huge. So for nothing more than that, if there was nothing else, that's one of the biggest things of understanding. But then also just having a very objective process, even though it's hard to see and play out in practice, but the theory itself is very sound, because just like anything that's a good theory is very basic, anyone can understand it, and as it builds on itself, it still kind of stays true. And so OP has all of that. You have the basic elements, and you can understand those on a very basic level. And you combine them, you build on them, they still produce compounds that are still very easy to follow and consistent. So that's what I like about it as well, is that it kind of follows everything that they're trying to accomplish. It's just being able to teach it. I don't know if that's just necessarily a strike against them and them being energy down, for them not having FE and SI, and it may be, but but what they have is pretty sound. And if you were to learn that, there's some work you have to do to kind of be able to utilize it. But it's just a great base. It's a great base. And I think as a community, us coming together, we're increasing, or we're raising the bar as well.
Yes.
Right. Whether or not they choose to listen to it, we're coming up with things, and then you'll see it in conversations we had months ago. All of a sudden, they're talking about it now. Right. Whether or not it's something that they just were kind of lurking in the board and they learned it, or they just gathered enough to where they say, okay, now we're seeing this. It's like, okay, I already saw that. We already saw that. So yeah, it's been good. It's a great community too.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm so happy to have found it actually myself as well. Yeah.
Right. Because I think it in a sense, just being somewhere where nobody has an advantage. We all have a blind spot. We all are, instead of trying to elevate one over the other, we're all kind of like on the bottom rung in a sense. Yeah. And it's a matter of working those things. I think that is makes it a nice safe space to be able to come in and not be judged, and to be able to operate.
Exactly. Yeah. There's not this war going on about different functions or types. Yeah. Everything is just neutral parts, so to speak. And equally important.
Right. and it doesn't mean that you won't have conflicts, because there's still certain, you may have certain animalistic reactions to certain functions or stacks or just modalities or whatever. You still want to have that, you still have those reactions, but at least, everything else is kind of worked out. And that's, you just minimize the number of things you dealing with.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, conflict is something we will deal with wherever we go, right? So, but here we have the tools at least, and everyone seems to be here for a reason. Most people are into self-growth and want to learn more about themselves, and
yeah. And you'll see the people who try to cause trouble or try to promote their own ideas. They don't last long because, you can come as you are, and we'll give you a little bit of room to like, put yourself out there and like to flex your muscles and to play around. But, you're not going to win people over by, promoting your own way. You got to kind of come in and learn, and then, go through what everybody else went through. That's the price of admission to be fully incorporated. And then once you have that basic understanding, then we'll start listening to you. Exactly. We'll start considering what you're saying. But if you just think you got it all figured out, it's like no, which, so they're just keys to a great community.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's interesting to see where all of this is going. And just this week, the whole info energy DOM discussion started with the release of the information from Catherine Ikram and Uzair on Benjamin's channel. So that's really exciting as well. Do you have any last thoughts on that before we end the interview? Have you been processing that during the week at all?
So from the Clubhouse piece, because we did all of the last, and it ended up, you could see the energy versus the info DOM. Like I saw where the void is, or what the similarities are between last and consume last versus play and sleep last. But its effect on the other side of the coin, it kind of remains to be seen. I would like to maybe get some info DOMs together, listen to that, and talk about it, and maybe come together, because I think they were making some assumptions on our perception, which isn't necessarily, it may not necessarily be that way.
It's a guess.
It's a guess, and I think that's what's triggering some people. And for me, it's like, it's not, I don't think it's fully flushed out. So, there's still some work being done to it, but I think they found something, they see something it's worth considering.
Yeah. There seems to be a huge difference between the info DOMs and the energy DOMs somehow. Like you said earlier, in terms of relating, that you could even relate more to an NEFE who was in energy DOM as opposed to someone who was your own type, but in info DOM. So, there seems to be something to it. Yeah, very significant somehow.
So, but kudos to them for finding that out and seeing that and being able to bring it out. So it's not something necessarily, maybe because they are info DOMs, it seemed like there were a lot of energy DOMs who were just like, what are you guys talking about? But it's like, no, I hear what they're saying. It's just, we need that other perspective to be able to bring it out, because they're just telling you what they're seeing. It's up to us to translate and say, no, this is what is really going on in our minds. Because not necessarily annoyed, I just don't know how to react sometimes.
No. And maybe that's something, as you said, something to bring up in Clubhouse and have like this live open discussion about, like, play about it and see what happens, what we can learn from there.
Because I am totally on board with being part of a discussion to take it further. because I think it is. I mean, they're making the thing with energy and info is like when we're typing someone, they're balanced with communication. It's like how it's very subjective to see if somebody's balanced. Like you can listen, and I have from since they've kind of introduced energy info. I don't know about you, but my results have been where I've been able to like guess it. I've been pretty good at guessing what the last animal is. So
interesting.
There's something there, but it's still hard to define. Like you can't necessarily say how somebody's balanced with communication.
Yeah, like my stats aren't that good yet. I'm still learning, but actually the info dom versus energy dom, I get that 9 out of 10 times. That's like the solid one in my case that I can see for some reason. Yeah.
Right. Like the guy we had this week, I did see, I said, okay, I have a suspicion. I looked at the clue yesterday and I said, okay. Yeah. I was there, right?
Yeah.
With this guy, the clue talks about the info energy piece. And I was there. So I think it has some legs, and I think it's just a matter of, again, looking beyond the words that they're saying, which people tend to get caught up in, and it's just like you have to almost understand the spirit of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. This forget the words because they're going to TE words. They're going to throw words and throw phrases. This is the phrase of the day. It's like there's a spirit behind everything they're talking about, and if you can maybe just certain types aren't able to do that. Maybe just being our quadra, we're able to kind of capture that,
Maybe. Yeah. How do you mean? Like if you would elaborate a little bit.
It's like, somebody like with blast with getting started. It's like, that's one way of looking at blast, but if you look behind what NI and OI and DE are doing, getting started is an aspect that can be seen, but there's other things. And that was an old definition that David Shan used. They moved on with other things. So but people are getting stuck on that definition. When it's like, it's such a small piece, and that's their job to try to find the best phrase that encapsulate everything that it's doing. But I don't think you ever will. Right? You have to see and figure out in your mind, and you may not even be able to put it into words. It's just understanding when OI and DE come together, this is the reaction that they're going to produce. And when you see it or you don't, right? It's either there or it's not, as opposed to its opposite, which is DI and OE, which they're two sides of a coin.
Consume,
right? So it's not consumed. It's either one or the other. So okay, maybe the person's not getting started. Maybe it's trying to control the tribe, trying to direct. I could get started for myself, but getting started, narrowing and kind of moving the tribe for me is hard. Right? Blasting to control and teach others, just and but if I'm asked to blast, if I'm asked to go up in front of an audience to teach, I can do it. Right? But if I'm having a conversation and I need to narrow and direct a person, it's a resistance. Right? My initial try is to play or to do something where you come up with your own interpretation and your own action plan.
You want to go with the flow and see what happens.
I want to go with the flow. I want you to take from it what you want. Like I want you to consume. I want to play consume. I just throw it out there, and whatever you walk away with, you do that, and we're both good. But so don't make me narrow down for you and then give you direction on how to go. That's to me is it's a violation, because what if it's not the best course of action for you?
I understand. The narrowing down is more a personal thing for everyone to do for themselves.
Right. So if I look at getting started, getting started for others, maybe getting started for others. Getting started for others is tough. It's tough. So that's to those, and it seems like people get caught up in that type of stuff, which it's like, maybe it's anything. I haven't really looked at the types of people who complain about it. But it might be something related to just a stack, or just not
maybe
being able to relate to one of the aspects.
I think that's the thing with the different quadras. I think there are different perspectives even on the system. So there is like a subsystem in the system somehow. And
because with Clubhouse, we're going to do the modalities starting next week. So we're going to go through the 4 modalities, and then and I don't know when we're going to do this, but we're going to go through the 4 quadras as well.
Great.
To, understand, what those motivations are, and kind of look at that language. And see, see what kind of falls out from that. But all of these pieces, like, you're just splitting humanity in like these different subsets, and you just, and we all kind of, we fit in some we're totally no part of, but for the most part, you find yourself, a little bit of yourself in most of them.
Exactly. Like, we all have these overlapping parts, and then we have the differences.
Right. So it's I don't know. It's not to, I don't think it's to get caught up in some of the nuance. I think it kind of misses the point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think so too. Like, better stick to these binary coins and just try to take it from there. Like Benjamin usually says, that it's about catching the bear. At this point, we're catching the bear, not the squirrel. And further on, we can go and define the parts more in detail. But at this point, we are not there yet. So I think
Dave and Shannon, they're definitely further along than we are. But them trying to teach a course is the part where it's kind of hard. But it is
hard. It is hard.
And
still, we are very thankful for them releasing this and giving it out to the world. And I'm just thinking, like, how many parts of the world today that are actually involved in this. When you are in the community, you see people from everywhere. Haven't seen anyone from Africa yet, but other than that, I think I've seen all the parts of the world.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys. They haven't been typed yet, but they have names that look like African names.
Interesting.
I can't think of it. I can't even pronounce. I'll let you know what their names are, but maybe that's something I may even ask them. At this point, it's not anything to be Mr. SCFE. I'm not afraid to ask those type of questions. It's like,
no, and in
great. A sense, some people are like, oh, that's why are you making it about? It's not about race or it's like, listen.
No.
Part of it is people want to express themselves. But part of it is I need that demographic data. To help. It helps us as well.
You're tracking. That's what you do.
You're tracking all that stuff, right? So it's awesome. It would be awesome to have some people from Africa who are into OP, because it lets it lets us know it's reaching there, and then their perspective is just as important.
Yeah, exactly. And we get more data as well.
You get more data.
Yeah. Now your functions with the SCFE play there. It's like a glue, like keeping the best parts together, and just unifying it. It's very fascinating to see.
It's so part of for me, when I first got typed, it's like, okay, I'm not NT. I'm I know I'm not dumb. Like, I know I'm not stupid. But that perception sometimes.
Why would you?
That perception.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, why would you? I mean, we all have these functions. Yeah.
But SF is, okay, you're just Mr. Good Times. You know how to party. You can drink. It's like, having that type of identity, or giving that identity in the community, for me, sometimes I think part of where it's hard for me is that if I tell somebody my type, they automatically think, oh, you're a ESTP, you're just this party dude, and it's like, no. I mean, I'm from what I see, a lot of the stuff I've gathered, there is like an NT concept that's already exists out there, but I've gathered it and I've kind of figured it out on my own. But if I talk to like an NT especially in our quadrant, like a beta, like a Otum.
Mm-hmm.
Odom will say something, and I'm like, he gives the scientific term for it, but I'm like, no, I kind of figured that out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
yeah, interesting.
um,
It's like he's just wording what is already there for you.
Right. He studied the scientific or the philosophy, he studied the science, the textbook piece of it,
Yeah.
learned it, and can apply it to what he sees. I collected the data, saw it, and I've kind of gathered on my own. So it's two different ways of doing the same thing. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm, in some ways I'm going the opposite way of a lot of these other guys. So part of it sometimes is like, okay, I know I'm not stupid. I know I'm not, maybe I'm not looking at things the way you're looking at it. But in another sense, I see my value is I'm older, and I've done a lot and I've seen a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You
right?
gained the wisdom.
Right. And in some ways, that me just being able to pour in some of these, especially some of these younger guys, and just looking at them and just really helping them, like, listen, like it's not the end of the world, or you're going to crash and burn if you keep pursuing this.
Yeah.
And just being, in a sense, like a big brother in some ways, just being able, like, nothing surprises me that people do. Like, I've seen it, I've talked about it, and nothing's out of, like, possibility at this point.
Yeah.
I may not experience it personally, but I could perceive it, I can fathom it. So I'm not going to judge you or bat an eye because, you were involved in this, or you did this or didn't do this.
Yeah, like this big brother / mentor, spider in the web. Yeah. Yeah, it's appreciated for sure, Ian. And I'm so happy to get to know you a little bit better now. You reached out first. So, of course, you being the SEFE, tracking everyone. And I feel via you, I have learned and I got to know other people as well.
Yeah.
And I discovered Discord and so forth. So, you are.
Because even with you, when I looked at your typing video, you said certain things that somebody else would listen, and it didn't mean anything, but I'm like, hold up. She said this, that may mean that,
you're connecting the things, and you're
I'm connecting, and
everything.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, how long was it before you were typed and we had that conversation? It was months.
More than 8 months, I think 9 months.
More than 8 months.
Yeah.
And because I had talked to Tom and Mercedes and all of them, and I was like, but finally I said, I gotta ask. I gotta ask. It's like, I was like, well, and when I asked, it confirmed what I had seen the whole time, but because I didn't have additional sensory, I looked at your Facebook, if it wasn't there on your Facebook, and it was like, okay.
Yeah. No, you see everyone, you're tracking the whole tribe. Right. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah, but it's super helpful. And I think more other people, not just me, really appreciates it. And we get more connected, and we get deeper into this community. And and I'm really into understanding this. So I'm super thankful that you wanted to come on and talk a little bit more about your functions, because for me as a blaster, I learn as I process it, as I blast and talk to people. So I'm not really teaching anyone else at this point. I'm just teaching myself, but anyone who wants to join for the journey and watch this is welcome.
And I will say thank you for letting me, kind of put some of this stuff out here, because I haven't shared it to this depth with other people, and it's not by anything that they didn't do, or I felt it just feels more comfortable.
Yeah. I think we are that close with the functions and everything. So it's just coming naturally. I'm glad. Thank you, Ian. Do you have anything else you want to add, like or promote or something? Benjamin, he always says that in the end of his interview, so I'm stealing it now.
I'm going to promote Clubhouse, those discussions. I am more, be a participant, but it would be awesome if I just like getting as many people up there to talk, because we all have something to contribute. Nobody's asked you to be the perfect guest. I just, you get up there and there's a conversation to be had.
Yeah.
You know, so if that would mean the most to me, if I haven't sought you out, if you contact me and let me know that you want to be part of it, I'll make it work.
Okay, great.
You know,
Yeah,
so
because there is a lot of information out there, like data points walking around. So let's share and
right.
learn more about OP. That's what I want to do.
An observer calling people data points. Yes, that
Sorry.
no, it's I see it the same way. It's not that I'm, you know, I see it the same way though. It's like we are data points. You know, I agree with you, but it's you know, I wouldn't say that to people. It's like, you know,
no, I
need you for
more
your data.
nerdy, I think. Hippie/nerd in me. Yeah. So how is that for some FE? FE is not about feeling.
There you go. That's something to let y'all know.
All right.
FE's not.
Thank you so much, Ian, and I'll see you around. And
all right.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.